Hello, everyone. Welcome to Helps YouTube Live today on November 19th, 2025. My name is Eric Olsen, lead attorney for Helps. Helps is a national law firm that represents seniors and disabled persons who owe debt they can't afford to pay. And our main message to seniors is that your income is protected. Your Social Security can't be taken from you. It's available for your needs. There's federal and state laws that protect your pension and other forms of retirement income, IRA, 401k, that kind of stuff. Even if someone were to sue you and get a judgment, they can't take it. Person write in and they told us, he says, I need help with credit card debt. I'm a senior citizen on a fixed income and I hope you can help me. Thank you. That's what we do. HELP stands for Help Eliminate Legal Problems for Seniors and Disabled Persons. A lot of people wonder, well, do you have to be a senior to be part of HELPS? No. The protections that we talk about here are based on on your source of income. And so we have clients that are in their 50s, 40s, 30s, that are in Social Security disability. That income is protected. Please let me know if you can hear me on the chat feature. If you can hear me, put it in the chat. If you have any questions, you can put them in the chat and I'll try to address them there for you. Okay? Don't want you to worry. So this person writes in, they say, I was referred to your organization and I'm on SSI. I have roughly 25,000 in debt. And let's check here. $25,000 in debt. And I was told pretty much I didn't need to file bankruptcy as my only income is my Social Security disability. I would like your help and questions. If you would reach out to me, please mail me some information. I would greatly appreciate. Thank you. Yeah, we do have a packet that we send to people, but frankly, you can learn more about HELPS on the internet, listen to these videos and getting on our website than anything that we can send you. Okay. It's much more comprehensive information on the internet. Here we go. Good, loud and clear. I always like to hear that. Okay, person contacts us from Texas and they say, I need some advice. I have several offices filing lawsuits against me. I'm on Social Security and have an IRA with Fidelity Investments. I own my home and car is free. My wife works for someone and I retired from the same company. What action should I take? Okay. So they live in Texas. Texas has pretty broad laws that protect seniors. They have pretty much an unlimited equity. You can have unlimited equity in a home in Texas. No one can get a lien on it or touch it. They can get a lien, but you can get the lien removed. You can sell the home. So they've been sued. If they get a judgment, the rule is that twice the amount of your federal benefits, like Social Security, deposited into a checking account is automatically protected by your bank from garnishment, regardless of what funds are in there or where they came from. So no one can take your IRA. That's an independent retirement account. All forms of your retirement monies are essentially protected from debt collectors, even if they sue and get a judgment. The debt appears to be in his name and not his wife's name. If you owe the debt, what can he do? Well, if he doesn't want to pay it, he doesn't have to pay it. If he doesn't want to be harassed by other creditors that he owes, he can roll in HELPS under a law called the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act, passed in 1978, provides that if you're represented by an attorney, debt collectors have to leave you alone. And that's what HELPS is. That's what we do. We represent people under the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act as their attorney. People find out about us. They give us the creditors they owe money to. All we need is a name address and account number. We don't need the balance. We send a cease and desist letter out to that creditor, and they have to communicate with us and not you. So this guy in Texas doesn't really have anything to worry about. Okay, they can't take us home. Now he's got a car that's free and clear. Uh, it's not the practice of consumer judgment creditors to go after a person's personal property like a car, even if they have equity in the car over and above the exemption for the state in which they live. So his car is going to be okay, especially if the car's in his and his wife's name. It's not going to be a problem for him. Okay. And pretty much what helps does is if you ever are worried or scared or have a question, you pick up the phone and you call us no matter how often. That's what we're here for, to give you information so you don't need to worry about this stuff. Okay. Person contacts us and they say, from Pennsylvania, he says, I'm drowning in debt. I'm being sued by Portfolio Recovery. I do have a payment plan with them. But he lost his job. I'm now on Social Security and my income is very limited. I feel that bankruptcy is my only option. I'm scared to death. Can you help? Thank you so much for your attention. I may have read this one yesterday. It looks a little familiar. Don't need to be scared to death. Okay. He's being sued. He's not working. He's on Social Security. It's protected. No one can take it. And it's protected in your bank account automatically by your bank in the event they get a judgment. If they sued you, do you need to go to court? No, you're what's called judgment proof, which means if they get a judgment, they can't collect from you. I feel that bankruptcy is my only option. Well, you can file bankruptcy, but you really don't need to file bankruptcy. Before I started HELPS, I probably filed between 20 and 30,000 bankruptcies for you know for decades. And I started HELPS because a lot of seniors, they didn't need to file bankruptcy and they couldn't afford to file bankruptcy. But if they didn't, and I could tell them, hey, the creditors can't do anything, but I know when I send them home, the creditors are going to call and make their lives miserable. So HELPS was founded so that we could represent seniors as their attorney under the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. We could send out what's called a cease and desist letter to the creditor or collector you owe money to so they would leave you alone. So this guy calling us from Pennsylvania, he doesn't need to be scared to death. And bankruptcy is not his only option. When I was doing bankruptcy, sometimes I go to a bankruptcy hearing and I'd see an attorney there with a couple maybe in their 70s or 80s, and their only income was Social Security and a pension. And I'd wonder, why is this person here? Why'd they file bankruptcy? A lot of these people had very little income. They hardly could afford to file bankruptcy. No one could do anything to them. So, I tell people sometimes if you got three choices. One is you could handle the problem on your own. You could file bankruptcy. You really don't need to because you can't afford to. They can't really do anything to you. You don't really need to file bankruptcy. Third option is the HELPS program where we represent you so you don't have to deal with the collectors. A lot of seniors don't want to have to deal with the problem on their own. Okay. So Mrs. H asks a question. Eric, with all the help we get from HELPS, and when a senior or others on Social Security and pensions, do you know if a state's legal aid will help on other matters when needed? How will someone get extra help? Well, they can in certain areas. Legal aid doesn't do everything. Um, you know, you, our mission is to protect you from debt collector harassment. That's what we do. Okay. But our second mission is to educate seniors how they can maintain their financial independence. Because of that, you can call us with other questions and we're going to answer them. Okay. People might call us, they want to know, do I need a will? We've got emails that talk about wills when it's necessary and even how to do your own will. We might talk to you about what happens if you're sued, why you don't need to go to court, and why they can't really do anything to you. How can you protect a home for your children? Um, what happens if you have a car you can't afford, if you have a timeshare that you don't need? So, we talk about reverse mortgages. Sometimes people that could make sense for certain persons. Affordable transportation. We've got lots of emails and videos from helps that talk about other things that could help a senior. Um, so, legal aid, to apply for legal aid, a lot of times they'll have an income requirement you have to show. We don't do that. With helps, you just do it over the phone. We don't represent people in court. Sometimes legal aid will do that for like an eviction or something like that. Um, but you can try calling legal aid, but a lot of times they're limited in what they can do to help. And so we concentrate mostly on seniors with lower income or persons that are on disability or that don't have to be seniors that are getting Social Security or protected income in order to stop collectors from harassing them. Legal aid doesn't do that. Okay. But once again, you can always call us. I worry a lot of times that, you know, a lot of the areas that we deal with are kind of specialized. We concentrate on debt issues, and a lot of times maybe attorneys on legal aid, really aren't familiar with these debt issues. Um, you know, they have more of a general area of practice. I remember several years ago, in fact, it was quite a few years ago, there was an article in San Francisco by the Legal Aid Society, and they talked about reverse mortgages and pretty much told people they should never consider a reverse mortgage. And it was really an awful article because it had a lot of misinformation. It's just the person really didn't know. Reverse mortgages are not for everyone, but for some people, they can be an answer to prayer. So, you know, I've been in practice 46 years. The other attorneys that work at Helps we've been in practice for decades. So there's something to be said for experience. And then there's the thing too about the law. The law says one thing, then what happens in the real world is sometimes entirely different. So we also want to be able to tell people, you know, what's likely or unlikely to happen. Okay. Um, I talked to a person today who was worried that they were getting sued by Synchrony Bank and for $15,000, whatever it was. Um, and they were worried about their car. They were worried that Synchrony Bank would take their car. Well, they owed $10,000 on the car, and it turned out the car was worth maybe $15,000. But as I talked to her, they found out the car had been in a wreck. And the vehicle exemption in Pennsylvania is like only $300. And she was worried that if they got a judgment against her, Synchrony Bank, they were going to come take her car. Well, I mean, I guess it's theoretically possible. We really don't see that happening. But if Synchrony Bank were to try to do that, they'd have to hire an attorney, get rid of execution, maybe get a bond depending on the state where you're at. And then if they got the car, they'd have to pay off the underlying lien holder on the car $10,000. They have to pay the client their their exemption, their vehicle exemption, which is a small amount. But there's no guarantee they would get enough money from the sale of the car to begin to pay off their debt. They might not get enough to pay them for what they paid the underlying lien holder on the car. So for that reason, I told her, I said, it's possible they could do it, but we just don't see that happening. It's unlikely they would do it. Okay. Okay. So here's a client, person they called in. We get a lot of call. We get a fair number of calls from children for their parents. And this person called in for the mom. She was in a nursing home, and all her income was going. She was on Medicaid. The mom was on Medicaid, And if I remember right, the mom had actually been sued. They had someone come to the nursing home, served her on papers. Okay. And the daughter was really upset and worried. Well, mom was on Medicaid, which means all the money from Medicaid and her Social Security, it was all going to pay for the nursing home care. And she was only left with like $50 or $100 for her personal needs. So no one could take anything, but we enrolled her in helps, and based on the circumstances, we waived all the fees. She wasn't going to be charged anything, and the daughter was going to give us the creditors that mom owed. We're going to send a cease and desist letter, including to the attorney that sued mom, and letting them know that her income was protected and she couldn't pay the debt. So that's what we do. We represent you ongoing, so you don't have to deal with creditors, and we don't turn anyone away. A lot, maybe 1 out of 6, 7 of our clients get our help for free. Those that pay a very minimal amount. Um, could be $40 for 24 months, $20 for 24 months free thereafter, or $30 for 24 months, $15 for 24 months free thereafter, or $20 for 24 months, $10 for 24 months, and free thereafter. It depends, and but we make it work for you. And remember, when you enroll in helps, you can stop paying these other creditors. You can stop paying them for now, for that matter. So a person calls us from New Jersey and they say, um, second here. I'm confused about how to keep a small amount of money I have from left safe from creditors without filing bankruptcy or debt consolidation. Well, okay. If you've been listening to me, sometimes you hear me say the same thing over and over and again. But it's important because a lot of seniors don't know this. Uh, your Social Security is safe. And in 2012, Congress passed a rule and told banks that it's not a law, it's a rule that was put into effect. Okay, a federal rule, and it tells banks that they're to automatically, if they get rid of garnishment, they're to look at your bank account. And if federal funds were deposited in there, such as Social Security, they take that sum times two and automatically protect that from garnishment without you having to do anything. Um, so this person says, I'm confused how to keep the small amount of money I've saved from creditors. You don't need to worry about it. If someone were to sue you and get a judgment, then they have to know where you bank, which isn't that easy. And if they were to file a writ of garnishment on your bank, then there's a department in your bank that looks at where you got your money. They times them out sometimes too. If it came from a federal source like Social Security, and they protect that, even if some of the money in the bank account came from another source. Okay, so it doesn't matter what money happens to be in the account at the time of garnishment. They just need to know whatever you got in federal amounts, like if you got 2,000 in Social Security times two is 4,000. 4,000 in the bank account is protected automatically without you having to do anything. So for that reason, a lot of seniors simply don't need bankruptcy. As far as debt consolidation is concerned, if you're involved in debt consolidation, the question I have for you, or a debt settlement company, is when you enrolled with them, did they tell you that your income was protected? If they didn't tell you that, you weren't given complete information. And a lot of these companies, the vast majority, won't tell a senior that. If they told them that, the senior wouldn't enroll with them. They want to make money off. Yeah, shocking that someone in a nursing home would serve papers. Yeah, I don't hear about that very often. It's pretty rare. But you got to realize the guy that served the papers, a lot of the process servers, it can be a sheriff's deputy. They have what's called a civil deputy in many counties, in many states, where there's a sheriff's deputy assigned to serve legal papers. But a lot of states, a private processing service can serve the papers. I think there were some videos on that. A show showed a guy trying to serve papers for a couple of years. I remember seeing that a few years ago. But they get paid a fee for serving papers. 25, 35, 40 bucks, whatever it is. Okay? And so, if he wants to get paid, he's going to try to serve those papers. Um, do you think if I just send the regular payment to my mortgage instead of the payment plan, my payment is 1160, the payment is, will they accept that? I don't know. You can call and talk to us. Apparently you're behind on the payment and they've set you up with a payment to get it cured. Um, one thing is if you're enrolled, it helps and you have other debt you don't need to pay, you can use that money to pay towards the mortgage payment. You can call and talk to us. I can't guarantee that they would accept that sum. Okay. This person, they write in, they say, I was referred to your organization by a bankruptcy attorney. He said I don't need to file bankruptcy for student loan debt relief because I'm currently filing for Social Security disability and have no income due to a disability. Yeah. Um, if you're going to get Social Security disability, there's a form you can file and get the student loans waived. Even if you don't, if you're not if you're not disabled, uh, student loans aren't actively collecting on persons receiving Social Security. They're not going to sue you. They don't sue. Student loans don't sue. They theoretically can, but I don't see them suing. The most they used to do, and they're not doing it now, they would send a letter saying they intend to offset 15% of your Social Security. They were going to start doing that in May, and then a month later they came out and said, no, we're not going to do that. Now it is nearly December. But at some point, if they were to try to collect from seniors that owe student loans and say they were going to take money from their Social Security, you could probably apply for what's called an income-based repayment plan and not have to pay this. Lower income seniors could apply for that and not have to worry about paying for the student loan. Okay. So Geraldo says, I stopped paying a small personal loan and the loan company says they don't send it to collections. They just calling and they say they will keep calling until I pay them. Well, okay. It's a really good question. Okay, so the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act that I've talked about technically applies to debt collectors, not in original creditors. Now, 7 states have taken the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act and apply it to to an original creditor as well. And I don't know them off the top of my head. I should. Um, but it's legal for them if it's not one of those states. They can technically still call you, and they're not violating the law. When a helps client enrolls, we send a letter to whoever you owe money to, even if it's an original creditor. In our experience, they're going to stop calling you, uh, but an original creditor could still send you a notice. Now, if it's a high interest collection, still send you a bill. Okay, but if it's a high interest loan, like a loan company like you're talking about, Geraldo, they may ignore our letter and still try to call you. You don't have to talk to them. You could block their call. You can hang up on them. You don't need to communicate with them. But they may not be violating the law since they're an original creditor. Okay. So Cruz asks, our combined Social Security income is around 4540 net, so it's double that. Um, yeah, It's double what your Social Security is. So if you have two Social Securities going into a bank account, your checking account, then it's double that amount. Double, add up both sums together, double that amount. Okay. Now remember, if you put some of that money into a savings account, that's money that isn't deposited directly from Social Security. So if they did garnish your bank account, they could put a hold on that money in your savings account. Now you might be able to get it back by filing a challenge to garnishment or claim an exemption, but it's easier just to keep it out of there, not just to put it in the bank account. Okay. Okay. So this person contacts us. They got, on November 13th, they called us. They said they got an email threatening a lawsuit. Okay. And then they called back on November 14th. Says he's a person is a very soft talker, so it's hard to understand him. It says we completed the intake. So when you call us, we ask you some questions. We have to ask a few questions, basic questions like, you know, where you live, your age. When I say where you live, the state. Okay. How'd you find out about helps? What your source of income is. Are you buying a home? What's it worth? How much do you owe on the home? Same thing for a car. If you've been sued, they have a judgment. The only income taxes, what your house is worth, the value of your car. But we need some basic information to be able to help you. Okay. So anyway, it goes on. It says we completed the intake, read what we did, and quoted the fees. He is quite enthusiastic about what we do here. Most people are when they hear about what Helps does, because they don't hear it other places. As far as I know, we're the only law firm in the nation that does what we do. And the note says his income is all protected, and he just has the one bank checking account where his Social Security is directly deposited. He has no other assets other than his Social Security and a bank account. He's going to be moving into an assisted living facility beginning in December. Has about $15,000 in unsecured debt and a deficiency, it looks like, from a car sale, and then a payday loan. And he owes a little bit in federal income taxes. We sent him an email about the income taxes, currently not collectible status. Unlikely the IRS would do anything about the income taxes. And if they did, he could get on currently not collectible status. And we sent him an email that talks about YouTube Live. Maybe this guy's listening now. I don't know. He called again, want to know about our hours of operation. Okay, and then he called on the 17th of November, just a couple of days ago. It looks like he enrolled with Helps. Okay, so yeah, that's how it works. When you call us, we save information for you, okay, about you. So you don't have to enroll when you call us at first. Sometimes people call us 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6 times, or even longer, over a period of months, sometimes even years. I talked to a guy this morning that first contacted us in 2024. If I remember right, he only has one major debt, and that's a deficiency on a sale of a car, if I remember right, way upside down on. He may be listening to us now. He didn't enroll in Helps yet, but I quoted him the fees and told him what we do. And if he doesn't want to be harassed by this collector, he can call back. We'll send him a letter, and they're going to leave him alone. Okay. 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 Looking at your notes here to answer your questions. Okay, Eric, yesterday a new manager greeted me at Wells Fargo just to test him. I asked him if I get a judgment against me, will they take my money? He said, no, they can't touch my Social Security. Well, that'd be the first manager I've talked to that know that answer. The question I would have is, did you ask him, can they take my money after they get a judgment out of my bank account? Does he know the answer to that? And if he knows the answer to that one, he's pretty good. that twice the amount is protected automatically. But if he doesn't know the answer, that's okay, because he doesn't deal with garnishments. There's a department in the bank that deals with garnishments, and they know the answer. So if you call your bank manager to see if I'm right, um, he may give you the wrong information, or he may say, I don't know. So this person contacts us from Arizona. Says, hi, I'm 66 and I've been on disability through Social Security. I was told that my student loans were discharged. Uh, yeah, it's probably right. If you can apply to have them discharged if you're on Social Security disability. I never got a bill, never got a letter, never got anything. In 2016, they started garnishing some money. This went on for 3.5 years. I kept telling them I was on disability. Well, telling doesn't do it. You have to apply. There's a form you have to apply for. Then it stopped. In 4 years, and 4 years later, they wanted to do it again. I told them several times I was on disability. Finally, one of them told me to go to the website and fill out the form. That's what I just said, which basically said I'm on disability, and that ended it. Yeah, you got to fill out the form. The amount was less than 10,000. The interest was 20,000. Even after those payments, I owe some. It's such a scam. Is there a way to get my $375 times 36 months back? No, no, not that I know of. No, there's no way to get it back. Yeah, you just can't tell people that they can't take it. You have to fill out the form that gives them proof, so Social Security stops taking it out. Okay. So what she was having, it was she or he or whatever, they were having 15% of their Social Security set off to pay for a student loan. Now they're not doing that now, but it could start up again, but they haven't started up. Like I said, they were going to start it up in May, and then a month later they said they weren't. We did a couple of videos on that. And I predicted that they weren't going to do it, because when they said they were going to start it, I'm sure a lot of congressmen started getting calls. See, they stopped doing offsets of Social Security for student loans back in about 2017. Helps was involved in a class action lawsuit against the federal government to make it easier for seniors to get on an income-based repayment plan. Up to that point, it was difficult to get it. It was a complicated form, and you had to do it over the internet. A lot of seniors didn't have access to the internet, or they didn't know how to fill out the form. So the government put a stop on it. And then when COVID hit, they stopped taking money out of Social Security for student loans. And they kept saying they were going to restart it. And last October, they were going to restart it. Well, they didn't restart it. And then we have a new president here in January. And then they announced in May they were going to do it. But I don't want to get political here, but I always heard Trump was always talking when he was running that he didn't want Social Security being affected. He wanted to protect Social Security. So I had a feeling if they're going to announce this, that they weren't going to start taking money out of people's Social Security. So I'll be surprised if they do. But if they do, hopefully if they do, they're going to give us warning, and we'll have plenty of time to be able to help people get on an income-based repayment plan where you don't have to pay the social, where they can't take 15% of your Social Security for seniors that are lower income or poor. It says yes, he knew. I told him most managers don't know, and it was his bank getting the judgment. He laughed. Yeah. Well, that's interesting. Um, Most of the time, exception for Truist Bank, if you're banking with a bank and you have a judgment, if your bank has a judgment, you can probably stay with the bank. Technically, if the only income going in there is Social Security, because there's a federal rule that tells banks that they can't offset money out of your account to pay a debt you owe the bank. if the only income in your bank account is from Social Security. Now, technically, if you had other money going in there, they could offset it, but we don't see them doing it. Exception is Truist Bank. Okay. So this person writes in, this was a comment on a video, and they say, I wanted to ask, can the attorney representing the plaintiff, that's the person suing you, it's the plaintiff, or the original creditor, law firm suing you, can they put a lien on your home? Well, the answer is this. It depends on the state, and probably can. Normally, they can put a judgment. If they get a judgment, it could become a lien on a home in the county where the judgment is obtained. Now, um, a lot of times that doesn't mean anything. For example, in some states, protect a certain amount of equity from a judgment lien. California does, like at least $700,000. In Florida and Texas, they have unlimited homestead exemption. Now, it could still be a lien, but if you go to sell the home, there's a form you need to file to get it released. And same for some other states. But then maybe you own the home with a spouse and the judgment is just against you. If you predecease your spouse, then at your death, the home would go to your spouse. The judgment lien disappears. See, a judgment is not a lien on a particular piece of property. It's a lien on the county record. It's on the county records. There's a judgment, and that if you go to sell a home, then there's a title company to do a research, and they'll show that there's a judgment lien. Okay, so it's not a lien on your particular piece of property. It's on any property you own in that county. It's not like a mortgage that's a lien on a piece of property that where there's a legal description. But then, so if there's a judgment against you and you pass away and the property goes to your spouse or maybe your other kids are on the title before there was a judgment, goes to the survivor, then you no longer own the property. You're dead. Okay. Now the person who got the property, the joint owner, the judgment isn't against them, and so they get the property free from that judgment lien. And then in most states, there's a time period where a judgment can disappear. It might be good for 10 years. Sometimes it can renew, sometimes it can't. But bottom line is, we don't see judgment lien holders for credit cards like that ever trying to go to take a person's home, even if you have equity in the home over and above the homestead exemption for the state where you live. Okay? So you don't need to worry about losing your home. Okay? Person asks, what about title to property you own? Well, I think that person, they're worried about someone could steal their home by forging their name on a title. Well, I've never seen that happen in 46 years, and if it were, you could get it 46 years of practice. And if they were, it could be set aside because no one can take your home unless you're the one who actually signed the paperwork. It has to be signed by you and notarized. So if someone else forged your signature and someone else notarized it, those are a couple crooks. And you go to court and you could have that transfer set aside. So these title lock companies really are kind of an empty remedy. And to pay them a lot of money every month for a title lock is kind of like, my opinion, is kind of a waste of money. Okay? No one can take your home unless you voluntarily sign the paperwork yourself to let the home go back. Can they take your savings account? A person asks. Well, yeah, they can if that's not the account to which your Social Security goes. Now, could you get it back? Most of the time you could. You could file challenge of garnishment or claim of exemption. Depends on state law, and you'd be able to show the court the money came from a federal source, and the court would order that be released. Okay? So that for that reason, we tell people, you can have a savings account, but if someone sues you and gets a judgment, then maybe you want to just keep the minimum amount in your savings account, $5 or whatever. Some banks require you have a savings account. And then, just have the money in the checking account. Make sure it's less than twice the amount you get each month. That way, if they happen to garnish your account, which is probably unlikely, they'd have to know where you bank, and that's not all easy to know. But if they were, your bank will automatically protect twice the amount of your federal funds in that account. Now, If you happen to have more than that in your checking account and it came from Social Security or another protected fund, you could file a challenge to garnishment claim exemption. Court will order that to be released. Most people tell me, well, Eric, I never have more than twice the amount in there. We don't need to worry. But once again, you don't need to worry anyway unless you're sued, and then to keep less than twice the amount, and again, you don't need to worry. That's 99% of what helps does is advising you why you don't need to worry. We don't want people at home stressed or losing sleep over this. Sometimes when people will call me and they've been a member of HELPS for a number of years, then I'll start asking them questions and find out they're paying some more debt. I'll say, well, you don't need to pay that debt. You can stop paying that debt and turn it over to HELPS. When you enroll in our HELPS, you're a client ongoing. If you incurred a new debt, or if you had a debt you never gave us in the beginning and now you find you can't pay it, you can always give that to us and we'll send a cease and desist letter out to that debt collector and they're going to leave you alone. You can use that money for your needs. Okay? Okay. For example, this person says, does this go for a personal loan too? I took out a personal loan a few years ago to pay off credit cards, but now it's hard to pay it each month. I only get $1,000 each month from, can't even buy my med. Yeah, yeah. Your income's protected from credit card debt, loans, virtually anything. What would be the exception? Well, maybe taxes, but then you could get on currently not collectible status and not have to pay the tax. State tax collector can't take your Social Security. It's protected. About the only exception is child support, but we run into that so very rarely. If that were to happen, talk to me, and there are some things that possibly could be done. So you don't need to use to pay that personal loan anymore. So you have the money to buy your meds. Okay, and the person asked, are senior citizens Social Security protected from garnishment from student loans? Well, I've answered that a couple times already today. The answer is yes. So this is one we get all the time. It says, the age for seniors seems to be changing constantly. What is the current age to be considered a senior citizen? Well, for purposes of helps, it doesn't matter your age. It's just your source of income. If your income is Social Security, pension, disability, VA benefit, IRA, that kind of money, it's protected, period, no matter how old you are. Disability income, okay? You don't have to be 62 or 65 or 70. It doesn't matter. It's protected. So this couple is age 69 and 78 from Virginia. They became disabled. They have a combined income of $1,800 in Social Security. And then they get a little money from Airbnb. They rent part of their home. Good for them. They own the home and they have a mortgage payment on the home. Husband is a cancer survivor and some other medical issues. They have a mortgage they have to pay $1,500 a month on. So that means they're living off about $2,800. They say our bills have been paid on time until last month. We have more than $12,000 each in credit card debt. Don't need to worry. You don't need to pay it. What do we do now? We're just 1 month late. I can't afford to buy my certain medicines. We have certain payments coming out, but we took the auto payment off our credit cards. Good, you can take the auto payment off and stop paying the credit card debt. What do we do? Nothing is in collections now. Do we let it go? Yes, you can let it go. We have a few that we put into a hardship payment plan with the company. Don't need to do that. If you put them, you know, if you're paying through a debt management or debt settlement company, when you enrolled with them, did they tell you that your income was safe and that you didn't need to pay it? Probably not. You can stop paying it. We can't even really make that 1,000. So it looks like they enrolled with a debt management company and was going to pay them 1,000 a month. Well, I can guarantee you that debt management company didn't tell them, by the way, your Social Security is protected. Now, technically, I suppose the money they get from the Airbnb might not be protected, but how could anyone ever collect from it? It'd be virtually impossible to collect from it. And if they got sued, um, twice their Social Security, 1,800 times 2 is 3,600, is protected from garnishment. So I'll go on. Our home is worth a certain amount, they say on Zillow. We don't want to sell it. They owe 160,000. Well, they have enough equity in the home. We might talk to them. We might say, one option you have is you could consider getting a reverse mortgage that would give you more income. But they're not going to take your home, depending on they're not going to take your home, and maybe depending on the state where you live, it's completely exempt. But no, we're going to call this person back, and they're not going to worry. Now, they live in Virginia, so they have a real low homestead exemption. But we haven't seen consumer judgment creditors in Virginia go after people's homes. But there's a lot of things they can do to protect that equity in their home and have it available to them. Okay. So this person contacts us from Florida. They get $1,200 in Social Security, $500 in pension, and then they get $2,400 from wages. But actually, it's not wages, it's from self-employment income. I'm not sure what the source of the self-employment income. They could be driving for Uber, maybe they're DoorDash, or maybe they have a little business on the internet or something like that. They got a free and clear home. In Texas, it's protected. Okay, all your equity in the home is protected in almost every instance. And then they have 100,000 in debt. Um, they ask, could you please give me a call? They do say, as I get a lot of harassing calls, I may not be able to identify your number, so I'm going to leave my name, my phone number, and my email. And text me. Okay. Thank you so much. This is from a few days ago. Well, yeah, we're good about that. We try to reach back to people, and we can text people. We often do that. If we don't answer the phone, our computer system allows us to send a text. It says, had a business that was shut down within the last 6 months. It was a corporation, but he signed with the creditor saying he was personally responsible for the debt. Went over protections and what we do, and we quoted the fee. So the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act applies to consumer debt, not business debt. But it doesn't matter if it's a business debt. They still can't collect your Social Security. So we can enroll this person and send a letter to those creditors, and they're going to leave them alone. That's our experience. Yeah, Turbo's kind of reminding everyone tomorrow we have YouTube Live 2 hours later. Okay. So this person from Florida, we're going to be able to help them. Yeah. If you're listening to me and you're having these problems, don't hesitate to call us. The number below, 855-435-7787, 855 helps US or helps us. And we'll go over this. You'll feel a lot better after you talk to us. Never any pressure to enroll in helps. We don't pressure people. We don't make enough money to pressure people. And you know, if a person can't afford it, you're going to get our help for free. I mean, we're just here to help people. And check us out. That's what you need to do. Look at our reviews. Look at what people say us on these YouTube live videos. We got a lot of videos on senior living. I think I did a video last week on senior living, and some of you commented about it. I think 6 things that seniors, that debt collectors, 6 secrets debt collectors don't want seniors to know. It hasn't gone viral yet, but it's had a lot of views, and it may go viral. When a video like that goes viral, and we've had a few go viral with senior living, we just get swamped with calls. I mean, we just get, yeah, and you know what that tells me? That tells me there's just so many seniors out there that don't know about us and don't know what we do. And it's distressing to me. So we always ask people to share what helps does. My prayer is someday we'll be a household word. More people will know about us. There's almost a concerted effort by debt collectors to keep this information away from people. They don't want to know about helps, or they don't want to know about that your income is protected. You know, so when we have a video that goes viral, or a lot of people, our phone calls go up, and we enroll a lot more people into helps when that happens. So subscribe to our channel, press the like button. You can do that to help and share what we do with other people. So this person writes in, they say, I'm looking for information to assist my parents with their transition to retirement. They both turned 83 years old. So when I give these numbers, sometimes I change them a little bit. So I never give enough information that you can say, oh, that's me or that's this person or that person. Don't, because I switch things around. And the thing is that so many seniors have these same problems. So when I talk about numbers and stuff, I'm not here to try to ever identify anyone. Yeah, the only regret I have about helps is it took me so long to find them. The peace I have now is priceless. Okay, so where's this guy? He's going to try to help his parents. They have about 50,000 in unsecured credit card debt. They have no retirement savings and very little money in their bank account. My siblings and I are beginning to supplement their monthly expenses. They may not need to do that. I would like the opportunity to discuss their predicament with you in order to advise them further. Please give me a call later this week, if possible, and we'll do that. And that was like earlier in this month, and they called back and sent a reminder to call them back last Thursday. Looks like we connected. One of the paralegals talked to them and see what they said. They're concerned about the phone calls coming to mom and dad. We updated their profiles. They own a mobile home on leased land. No problem. No one can take their mobile home. Dad is very resistant asking for help. Well, if you got a parent you're helping, have him listen to some of our videos. They can listen to me here now. It says mom may be the only one that will use helps. Well, that's fine. If we enroll one spouse, later if the other one decides after a while that, yeah, they need us too, we can add them in. There's not an extra charge. They call back the next day with mom. She's on board. It says, it looks like we enrolled both mom and dad. So, yeah, they're not going to have to pay the $50,000 in credit card debt. No one can take their mobile home that's on rented land. They're not going to be called by creditors. Kids aren't going to have to, kids can help supplement them if they want to, but they don't use that. They don't need to supplement them so that they can stay current on the credit card debt. That's for sure, because no one can take their money, and even if they get sued, they're not going to have to go to court. All their money's going to be safe. Twice the amount in their account's going to be safe. Okay. So we're getting near the end. Another day. Time is flowing. Remember, tomorrow will be 2 hours late, but a lot of people look at these videos later, so it doesn't matter. Okay. But if you want to make comments, you have to put 2 hours. Look at it. It's 2 hours later than what it is for Monday through Wednesday. So this person contacts us from the great state of Oregon. They have Social Security for 1421, and they get a pension of 266, and they're in their 80s. Apparently, they've got some wages that are over the exemption. They make. See, every state protects $217.50 net per week in wages. Okay, that's $435 every 2 weeks, $950 a month. But some states protect all your wage, or protect more than that. Oregon is just $217.50. But it says here they have income over that, but it doesn't matter because they're not going to keep their job for much longer. And someone would have to sue them, get a judgment, and know where they work. So we just don't run into a problem with our clients that are working having their wages garnished. Okay, this person lives with her son, and she's buying a car. We read what we do, answered questions, quoted our fees, sent her emails about that, links to different emails about problems she had, like including YouTube Live, and enrolled with helps. So Rico says there are many older people worried to death that don't know about helps but are ashamed to expose themselves. I'd like to hand out flyers door to door, but that's another problem maybe. Yeah, they won't believe it. When I first started helps, you just got another 2 minutes. I'll tell you this story. I came up with all ideas. I had TV advertisements. I may have had radio. I advertised on newspapers. I did everything, trying to get people. I used to go to legal aid conferences for like 4 or 5 years in a row and try to let them know about us. Maybe you could share what we have. Yeah, they didn't care. I went to bankruptcy. Originally I thought bankruptcy attorneys would refer more people to helps than anyone else. Nah. No, all they cared about was themselves. A few exceptions. My old law firm gives us more referrals for helps clients than all other law firms in the country combined. And you know what? My old law firm files 1/4 of the bankruptcies in our state. Karma. They do the right thing, and people know that. So, trying to get the word out, I've been trying all kinds of ways. The best way is YouTube videos, and there's articles too. Okay. So, I'm waiting today for someone from a national media to call me on the phone and get me in and be able to interview me about seniors' debt problems and what can be done to solve them. That could change everything. It hasn't happened yet. I even wrote, what's the guy that Dave Ramsey? Wrote him a couple times. One time I sent him $1,000 check and said, Dave, all I want is 5 minutes of your time to tell you about helps and what we do. He sent the $1,000 back to me, the check back, with a nice letter saying, I don't have time to talk to you. I'm too busy. Okay. But I thought it'd be important for him to know because he talks to a lot of people. Anyway, it's been an hour. I appreciate you trying to share. Press the like button. I'm doing all I can to get the word out. Maybe you can help me because There's a lot of little widows out there and widowers that are crying tonight and worried about debt, and a lot of them are paying debt they don't need to pay, and if they knew about us, they wouldn't have to pay it. So help the word get out is my prayer, and I will talk to you tomorrow, 2 hours later. God bless and have a great day.